Hey everyone. Alright, so this is actually our first video of the entire year of 2020. We're going to go ahead and do a portfolio review for Emily. Emily, thank you so much for your patience. I know it's been a very long time, but I finally was able to get to this, so we're going to dive right in. So let's actually start off with a hard refresh, just to kind of give us a better idea of load times and everything. This took a little bit longer to load. Okay, so we have Emily, which is almost a megabyte. That's it? Why is that a megabyte? Interesting. I don't think that needs to be a megabyte. We'll take a look, but I think a lot of people don't spend time to optimize some of their images. That's pretty cool that you got that. I think the size of that is I think the size of that is pretty small. I think the only concern I have is this image. CSS files, fairly large. Let's take a look at the site. So that in total looks like it took about six seconds to finish, and it looks like it probably apparently looked like it took around 3 seconds, which is kind of a lot. No, it's not kind of a lot. It is a lot, especially for a portfolio page. So that's concerning. But let's actually go ahead and dive in a little bit. But what you can do, you can go back, you can optimize your images, you can minify your CSS files, your JS files. It might even, when I was actually looking at this earlier, it kind of looked like your server was taking a little bit longer to respond. And when I initially loaded this, it looked like you probably had like a free plan, maybe with Heroku, where it took about 30 seconds to load. Maybe it was my connection, I don't know. But for your portfolio, this is kind of advice to everyone. Pay, if you're going to host it on Heroku, I think there are other cheaper alternatives, but if you're going to host it on a Heroku, the portfolio itself, I would actually pay the $7 a month. I think that's what it costs. Get it to instantly load. I think that's important. And keep in mind, portfolios can be, they're static pages. That's all they really are. That's all they really should be for the most part. So you can host them on free alternatives. You can even host it on GitHub if you just have static assets and it's just a site like this. You just want it to be very responsive. You want it to be fast. You want to show that you care about that optimization and response time. So, okay, we're done with that tangent. Let's dive in. Web developer, right to the point. I like it. You kept this really simple. I think the shading is pretty dark. It's a semi-weak call to action. I think your focus should be on your portfolio. I think there are extremely few circumstances where your audience, whoever's coming to your website to look at your portfolio, doesn't care about the portfolio, or it's not a number one priority. I think this is very important, so I'm glad you identified that. So let's actually click that and see what almost looks like a different site. What? Oh, okay, so you have different pages. It's not I thought this was a one. What? Oh, interesting. Okay. So it typically, what you'll see is this will actually kind of bump down to the actual section when you have a one-page portfolio like you do. Is that jarring that you took away? You basically took away a big chunk of like nothing, right? The first above the fold content didn't really matter. It didn't really give a lot of value to your audience. So I'm not against taking it away. It can just be kind of jarring when all of a sudden now you've lost that. If you do a certain action, but if you do another action, you actually keep it. Okay, cool. Let's keep diving in. But I like that you didn't fill this with too much content. I think the portfolio is important. You probably love cats, and as silly as it sounds, you can connect with your audience with really, really subtle stuff like that. So if you love cats, I like that you put it in there. Chicago-based front-end web developer and recent graduate of Northwest Coding Bootcamp. I would take out the recent. I can go off on a tangent about how you should stay away from labeling yourself as a junior or a graduate of something. You are a developer, and I really think you should sell yourself like that. You can do it in a way where you still come off as humble, and I can dive into that if you want, but I'm really hesitant on labeling yourself as a junior and saying that, especially like recent graduate. You didn't just graduate, you've been coding, you're a developer, you're hireable. So I think this can basically, it causes you to undersell yourself without you even knowing it when you negotiate your salary. And that's one of the biggest frustrations for me when I talk to people. Like when they do accept that salary, people are so excited. Oh, it's the first position. I'm finally a developer. This is so exciting. I'll make money down the road. I'll raise my salary down the road, but I'm willing to accept this because I finally made it in. Like developers, even if you just graduated a boot camp, you have so much potential, so much higher ability, and people often undersell themselves and they accept salaries in which it's lower than what they're worth. So just something to consider. It's not that important, but it's usually one of the first things I have very strong feedback for when I check out someone's portfolio. Cool. So you got right to the point. I like it. Northwest Coding Bootcamp. So you have a GitHub link. You have a live site. Right? Emily, GitHub. Yep, that looks like a static page. That looks like a static page. Cool. You have a lot of projects. I like this. Bookfinder, memory game. Why is that? I don't even know what language that is, but why? Maybe you have a reason for it. City search. Okay, so I think you really have a lot of the fundamental stuff for the portfolio itself. I think you are missing one. Okay, so what do you have? You have the GitHub link, which I think should be a requirement. You have a link to the live site, which I think should be a requirement. You have a screenshot of the site. And some people really hate this because they hate working on the front end, but I think some sort of screenshot into, like, I think it could tell a heck of a lot about your app just from a screenshot. So you're almost there, but I don't think the screenshot itself shows enough context. So what do employers care about when they go to a portfolio? They're trying to basically assess how much of a risk you are to hire. How close you are to kind of ramp it up to where they need you to be to provide value for the company, and of course a cultural fit. And they just want to just check a few other things. But when they're looking at a portfolio, I think they want to see what you can do. They also want to see how you got there, right? So I think sharing context around the type of problem you were solving, maybe you could even have like another a link to this if you prefer writing, blog post or LinkedIn post, but providing some context about like how you grew from that project or some of the problems you solved, potentially like if they were any projects that you built for other people that provided value to them, what value did you provide? So if you were to add a third link or even kind of a little extra context under the screenshot or wherever you want to place it, I think giving extra context into some of that would be very helpful. If you want to keep it short, just talk about the project, the problem you're trying to solve, and the value that you provided from that project. If it was just a learning experience, you could state that. That's fine. But I think it needs to kind of be sort of a window into your growth and the value that this app can provide to people. So it increases the chances that an employer might say, oh, you know, this is actually a really cool project. We actually wanted to build kind of a gallery just like this. And potentially they can relate to some of the work that you did and relate it to the work that the company is doing. So I think extra context and sharing that in your own way could be very valuable information to put on your portfolio. Burgers. What the heck is burgers? End of the burger you would like to eat? Okay. Right, there's no context. I think that's kind of just fun to read, but what the hell is this? Like, this doesn't provide me a lot of value. I have no idea why this is even on here. And it probably should be, but why? Okay, so you have a lot of projects. Object collector. I think you like building a lot of mini projects. I like that you put the skills. I think the skills are very helpful. You could potentially even put like a filter here that will filter the projects based on the skills, and you could provide a clear that will then show all of the projects. I think that's kind of just a step up that can show some more or how comfortable you are with JavaScript in general. Okay, so you have a lot of projects. I'd probably include a little bit of spacing here. What? Wait, what? Data visualizations. Okay, so it's completely separate. Northwestern Coding. Why? Get rid of that. This is your experience, right? These are projects that you built. Like when you tie your projects to your coding boot camp, it very much says I probably did not do this on my own. Maybe people do not agree with me on that, but when I read that, because I've been through a coding bootcamp, and other people that have been through a coding bootcamp might have similar experiences where you had a lot of hand holding and a lot of help, which is very natural at a coding bootcamp. And I think it undervalues the project. And I think it undervalues how you grew and what you learned from that project. I think it's a very subtle thing. So instead of Northwestern Coding Bootcamp, you could just put projects, experience. I wouldn't label this all under Northwestern Coding Bootcamp. It's just projects you built. Projects and then data visualizations. That's how I would probably categorize these. Anything else? I almost think it's kind of weird that these aren't aligned at the bottom. I'll try putting them at the bottom and see how that looks. Do you really need to cut it off here? Why can't you just extend it? Is that really such a bad thing? Just to keep things aligned? Because, like, the rest of the website, you probably do have some white space down here, right? And even where you clip some of the screenshots, I think... Okay. I just want to make sure that the link of when I mouse over this match this, that's all. When you kind of cut it off, it almost looks like you're showing the full website, but you didn't really put a lot of focus into the CSS, the positioning of the text itself. So I would actually take extra care to show proper spacing even in your screenshots. And that can be kind of hard to do. And it might take you a few minutes, but I would put extra time into that. What the hell is this? Emily Dalton. Okay. So at the very least, put a mail to link or something like that, where it's going to open up the email client. I think that's pretty standard. I think that's pretty common. I don't think you need a contact form. In fact, I think it's usually, it's just over the top and it's not needed. Because especially when the focus is, here's my portfolio, go ahead and contact me. Just keep it simple, put a contact link. Why is this left aligned all the way over here? This looks really weird. I would actually just take a look at some like minimalist footers, like literally Google minimalist footer designs on Google. Kind of figure out what you want to do with this information. Maybe you have some navigation links. You really don't even need these navigation links. Actually, I haven't taken a look at this. Social media, I like this. This is good. I would actually put these down there as well. But you could even put these links. down here as well. It just looks like you have a lot of area with nothing in it, and it's poorly positioned. It doesn't really align with any of the other content on your page. At least like have it align with the left of your navigation when you scroll all the way down. Sometimes, ooh, okay, it looks like you could even, never mind. You could just left align it right here. Okay, let's take a look at mobile. Just for funsies, let's do a hard refresh. Did that take longer? Oh, dang it. How do I'm gonna screw this up. There it is. Let's actually trim that. Time. What in the world? Why would this take almost 3 seconds? Icon. Oh, are you okay? So you're using a CDN. Okay, that can sometimes happen with icons, brand icons, chunk. Whew, man, I don't think you have a lot of JavaScript. I don't know why this would take a second to retrieve, and this seems really high. I'm kind of curious why this is being served so slowly. I mean, it's 91. It's not that much. All right, so let's take a look at mobile. Is this a glitch, or is your mail icon not really having consistent spacing around it like these? I think it's just a CSS problem. Yep, looks like it. So this is too squished. Fix this. View portfolio. I like the hover. When we were on desktop, I remembered playing with a hover at least before I started with the video, and it highlighted. I still think this is a semi-weak call to action when you have a transparent background like this with a white border or something like that, with a white text, so the text color will match the border color. You usually will use that for kind of like a secondary call to action. So I think it's a primary call to action, but like the button's a little bit weaker, so you can kind of figure out like what background color would match your color scheme with this, and change the button if you want to give it more focus and priority. Okay, like the picture. I think pictures are always good. I think it just helps create a personal connection with your viewer. It almost looks like you should Northwestern Coding Bootcamp. Okay, it actually looks like the project title for this is Northwestern Coding Bootcamp. So I think what could be healthy, I forgot what it looked like on desktop, but you could put like a little about me header, like projects header, because it looks like this is the header for this specific project. And I'm like, no header for this? What? This is weird. So what got me going on this is the alignment. For some reason, like usually you want to focus, or usually you want to align the header to the rest of the headers on the page. When you kind of scrunch it up like this, it makes it look like a subheader within this section, or it makes it look like a header within this section, so it's a subheader of the entire page. I would actually align this left, align it with the header you're going to place here. Probably a little bit more spacing between projects, because you don't really have a lot of detail to show that you're going from one project to another. So this is all kind of bunched up. So a simple fix is to create a little bit more space here. And we talked about the spacing between, like within the screenshots. I think it can create more spacing as you navigate down the page, more appropriate spacing, so everything isn't all jumbled. But another thing would be to kind of revisit your color scheme and how you choose to section off certain elements of this entire element. But I think simple fix, create a little bit more vertical spacing between these projects. Let's keep going down. Okay. And then this, and we talked about this, so you could Same thing with the footers that I told you to look up, minimalist footers. You can look it up for mobile as well. Typically, once you have the desktop, I think it's with this little of content, I think it's pretty easy to figure out what you want to do with mobile. But look at screenshots, look at examples. But we already talked about this. Other than that, okay, so what do I really like about this portfolio is I think contrast is pretty good. Text seems okay, kind of slightly small. I don't think you have... I would actually bring that up. I don't know what I would do with that. Bring that up to the top. I think the separation between your different pieces of content, like your About Me and your portfolios, at least just here. Like, I like how you separated it here, but here it just... oh, I see what you did. You actually crunch it. That's kind of interesting. You crunch this more in the desktop, but you let it be wider than your other content on mobile. I think the feedback that I gave about putting a header here and everything like that, I would just play around with it on mobile and see how it looks. Mobile, everything just looked too crunched up. So it was harder to read. I like that you left align this. What else do I like? You have been coding. It's the most important thing, right? We can pick apart your portfolio as much as we want. And at the end of the day, a lot of it's kind of specific, biased from my own perspective. But what's most important is that you continue coding, and it looks like you have a lot of projects. So I love the breadth of your portfolio. It looks like a lot of different projects, different languages that you've used, different APIs that you've played around with, different libraries that you've used. I like that. Because I'm not going to look at your projects, but I would actually focus on the depth of your projects. Are they full stack projects? Because some of them look like they could be, and how much in depth? Are they kind of just basic CRUD projects where you're just reading and writing to the database and it's pretty fundamental full stack sort of projects? Or did you go on more in depth, try to integrate, like, I don't know, kind of a little bit more of a complex library? Or did it provide tons of value and actually solve a problem? So maybe revisit the depth of some of your projects and see if they catch employers' eyes. But other than that, like, you have the content. Now we just got to focus on some of the contrast, priorities of your content, and alignment. I think that's about it. Overall, really good job with this, Emily. I think I touched base with you a while ago. Hope everything's going well. But I think this is one of the portfolios that I've seen more content than a lot of the others. So I'm really proud of you for that. All right. I will see you guys in the next video.